All right, hydrogen one, we have already seen that since hydrogen belongs to no group, has one electron to be shared. So what does it do? It shares its one electron each and forms one single covalent bond. For fluorine, it's also the same case, but here I told you one very important point to keep in your mind, that fluorine belongs to group 7, is having a need of one electron, so it will make one bond. All right. But out of the 7 electron, if one electron is gone for bonding, 6 electrons are still there to be shown in the outer shell. Until and unless you show non-bonding electron, to which we gave a name as lone pairs, unless you show the lone pair, you will not be getting a mark for a whole mark for the fluorine, unless its whole structure is completed with 8 electrons. Similarly, in carbon dioxide, if you see, carbon belongs to group 4 and hence it will make 4 bonds. So it has made 4 bonds, one double bond here, one double bond here. And since it was having only 4 electrons, so all electrons are finished. No electrons is left to be shown in the structure. However, for oxygen, we learned yesterday that oxygen is in group 6. Need of 2 electron will make 2 bonds. That means if out of 6 electron, 2 bonds are being made, so 4 electrons are still left that you have to show in the last shell as lone pair of electrons. For carbon tetrafluoride means CF4. We have seen that carbon is forming 4 bonds with 1 electron sharing with fluorine each, and at the same time fluorine is providing its 1 electron in the sharing and left with 6 electron in the outermost shell every time. That is 3 pair of electrons. So these are the examples we have seen yesterday of some small molecular structures that we have learned to draw. All those small molecular structures that you have seen, they are the part of your syllabus, and some of them I have shown you in the example. Let me just list them down. I had shown you the hydrogen, I had shown you NH3 myself, I have shown you nitrogen molecule, carbon dioxide molecule. Some of them I gave you as a task, like you were given methane as a task, you were given C2H6 as a task. Some of you were making C2H4. And so all of them, and I gave H2O also to be drawn in the yesterday's work. So these all molecules that you have drawn, they were the part of your course and they were called as small molecules. They are small molecules. And if they are there in a container, for example, you have ammonia gas. So these small molecules have a very weak force of attraction between them. Over here, you need to understand that unlike ionic compounds were only having one type, where cations and anions were to be attracted by strong force of attraction. Over here, these ionic compounds are of two types. One is this, which you have just seen, the small molecules, small molecular structures, and the other kind of covalent compounds are known as giant molecular structure. Small molecular structures are the one which are small molecules like H2O, CH4, and H3, carbon dioxide, CO2, N2, O2, H2, F2, Cl2, so many small molecules where there is a short formula. A small formula can represent one molecule. So these are small molecular structures. Covalent compounds are of two types. One is a small molecular structure that you have just seen. Second, we are going to learn in a while. But before that, I will compare the properties of the two compounds, two type of compounds. Just like in ionic compounds, we learned three properties. I would recall, we learned that they have high melting and boiling points. We learned that they conduct electricity in molten or aqueous form. If you remember, we learned that property. The third property, we learned that they are hard and they are brittle. These are the three properties I have told you in case of ionic compound. Here I am taking you towards the properties of covalent compounds and comparing the covalent compound properties two ways, or you can say two type of compound in their properties. I'm going to compare them. So first thing you should know is that all the small molecular structures, and if you go back and see all of them carefully, you will find that none of them was a solid. They are either liquids or gases. So all of them are either gases or liquids, hence they have low melting and boiling points. They are gases or liquids, and that is why they have very low melting and boiling points. They are not solids. So if you recall carbon dioxide, if you recall oxygen gas, you recall H2O, water is a liquid, carbon dioxide gas, oxygen gas, or ammonia gas, NH3, methane gas, all of them are either gases or liquids. So small molecules will always be having these two states, and that is why they will have low boiling and melting point. Second property is that they are non-conductors of electricity, no matter what is their state. Solid, liquid, gas. For example, over there, if you remember, ionic compounds were solid and we were either melting them to bring them into molten state, or we were bringing them to aqueous state. And in both states, they were able to conduct electricity. Over here, no matter what state you get them into, maybe you think that if I bring oxygen into a liquid state, or maybe I bring it to a solid oxygen state by solidifying, so it starts conducting electricity. No, it will not. Let me ask the reason, if any one of you can give me the reason why is it not possible in small covalent compounds to be the conductor of electricity in any state. What could be the reason? Okay,
Miss, because they don't have.
wait, Abdullah, wait. Yes, anyone else?
Miss, because they don't have freely moving ions.
Yes, very good. So that is the reason, although you were not there in the class, I'm happy that you are able to answer. In ionic compound, we learned that their ions were free to move. They had free moving ions. And since they don't have ion at all, they are not forming ions now. They don't have cation and anion. They have molecules. They don't have ions. So since they do not have ions, so how could they have free moving ions? So once they do not have free moving ion, this is the reason. If the reason comes for you to ask why they are non-conductor of electricity in any state, they are called as, the reason would be non-moving ions or no free moving ions available to them. Now, moving on to the giant molecular structure in comparison, they all have high melting and boiling points. We will look into the reason for that. We will look into the reason for this also, that why do they have low melting and boiling point in detail with particular words and keywords that you are going to use. Second thing, you should know that they all are solids. At room temperature and pressure, they all are solids. And third thing is, there are three giant covalent structure in your course, as you can see on your screen. Fullerene was there, but it's no more there on your syllabus now. There is graphite, diamond, and silicon 4 oxide, or you call it silicon dioxide. There are two names of giant molecular structure. There are three big structures in your course, out of which silicon dioxide, or you also call it silicon 4 oxide. So all three of them, if you consider, they all are, out of them, two are non-conductor of electricity. Only graphite. Graphite can conduct electricity only, except for diamond and silicon dioxide. We are talking about here only. There are so many other giant covalent structures also, but in your course there are two only which are considered. So we are talking about them only, that they are non-conductors. However, graphite is a conductor of electricity. Now, my question, as I asked you here, what is the reason for a non-conduction of electricity in the small molecules? My question is, what is the reason of conduction of electricity in graphite if you know already? I know it's not something I have told you, but you already have information you can share with me, any one of you.
Yes, graphite have free electron, yes,
Yes,
because it only bond with 3 carbon atoms, not 4.
very good. Well done. You already have a lot of information about it. Acha, one thing which I would like you to consider is the word moving. Free movement of electron is there, or free movement of ion is there. Ions, we will talk about the compound. When we are talking about the compound, we will refer the ions. When we are talking about the elements, we will refer the electrons. Since graphite is only made up of carbon, only one element. Whereas the other, you have seen carbon dioxide, water, they were made up of other elements as well. Other atoms were also there, like H2O is having hydrogen and oxygen. So it's a compound. In compounds, the reference of electricity would come from the ions. But in elements, if it is made up of one element only, the reference of electricity will come from the free moving electron. But the word, or you should say the phrase, free moving electron or free moving ion is important here. Any questions? Hania, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. I have no questions.
Yes, please. No question? Okay, I was thinking that many words are bothering you.
Um, Not now. I have no questions.
So just have a trust that each and every word that I have used, just like compound or element I am saying, I will be explaining each and everything to you later on.
Okay.
Okay. There are some exceptions for small molecular structures as well. As I said that all small molecular structures are non-conductor of electricity. I just said it. But then chemistry is all about exceptions. I am so sorry for that you will have to learn with every rule comes an exception. So here you will have to learn this exception which says that if that small molecule is an acid. So this HCl, if you see both of them are non-metal. Hydrogen is a non-metal. Chloride, when it forms as a covalent bond with chlorine, it forms like this. Hydrogen chloride is forming like this. It's a covalent compound of HCl. So in this covalent compound, still, when you dissolve it in water, what happens? It starts ionizing as H plus and Cl minus in the water. Because in aqueous form, I told you that there is H plus and OH minus, which starts attracting the opposite ions in the HCl. Although HCl is not ion, HCl is not ionic compound, but there are some exception with with covalent compounds, like I have mentioned, that all the acids, acid is a complete chapter where you will have a know-how of what acids are. But I have given some examples like hydrogen chloride gas when it is dissolved in aqueous form, means when it is added to water, what does water do? Water tries to ionize it, and due to that ionization, what's there? Free moving ion. And free moving ion is the reason it conducts electricity. So going back and again reminding you, I said they all are liquid or gases and they all are non-conductor of electricity. However, if these small molecules belong to acids, HCl, this is sulfuric acid, H2SO4 is sulfuric acid. You must have heard its name commonly, nitric acid. So these acids, although they are covalent compounds, they still conduct electricity. Understood?
Yeah.
Okay, now we will look into the giant structures, giant covalent structures that are here in our course as diamond, graphite, and silicon 4 oxide. However, I would like to introduce with this term known as allotrope. Yes, Abdullah.
Miss, I didn't understand the acid point. Previous slide.
It is simply this statement that even if it is a covalent compound, but it is an acid. For example, when I say H2O itself, when I say HCl itself, when I say HNO3, they all are very clearly showing an H plus ion coming out of it. So in the chapter of acids, we will learn about what the acids are. For now, you should focus on this statement that if it is an acid, it belongs to acidic category. And if you dissolve it in water, so this will start conducting electricity. If it is not dissolved in water, just like I said here, HCl, hydrogen chloride gas, unless it is aqueous, it will not conduct electricity. If it is a gas, HCl is a gas, so it is not ionized, so it will not conduct electricity. Only the class of acids, although they are covalent compounds, but the class of acid has this exceptional rule that they can ionize as H plus in the water, and that is why this H plus is a free moving ion and can conduct electricity. So for now, you just need to remember this statement that although all small covalent molecules are non-conductor, but if they belong to the class of acids and they are dissolved in water, they will start conducting electricity. Is that fine now?
Yes, Miss.
For now, I can explain this only. Once I will explain you acids, so it will be more clear to you. Right now, we will keep it till this simple statement that all covalent compounds that are small molecules are non-conductors. But if it is a class of acids and they are dissolved in water, then they will conduct electricity because now they will create free moving ions in them. Any more questions from anyone else?
Wait, so like the covalent thing, right? So like if it's a small molecule and if it's aqueous form,
Mhm.
it conducts electricity, and if it's acid and also giant structure but not solid.
Can you repeat your statement? I think I have missed something.
No, like is this correct? So like in covalent, right? My voice is actually bad, so I can't like say that. In covalent,
Hmm.
if aqueous, it can conduct electricity, and also if it's a giant structure, like the giant structure thing, right? And
No.
acid, that's it, right?
No. Let me repeat. See, covalent compounds are of two types, okay? What are the types?
Okay.
Small and giant.
Yeah, the giant one, yeah.
And giant. Out of the small molecules, none can conduct electricity but if it is acid and dissolved in water. Clear?
Oh yeah,
Out of
yeah,
the giant molecular structure, none can conduct electricity except graphite. Clear?
yeah.
And when you talk about small molecular structure conduction of electricity, you will say that this is because of the free moving ions. When you speak about the electricity conducted by graphite, which is there in where giant molecular structure, you say that it is because of free moving electrons and not because of ions. Clear?
Yeah, okay.
Now is that clear? The things are settled in your mind now?
Yeah.
To some extent, once you will read it again and again, the notes will be shared. You will read it again and again, so you will find it more clear after reading it. Once it takes time to absorb.
Miss, when will you share these slides? After the chapter finishes or?
After I'll finish this chapter of chemical bonding, I'll share the slide. Meanwhile, you have to work on your notes and the videos I have shared. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Next thing that I would like you people to know is that the giant molecular structures are there in the course. Okay, we are going to learn about it. But there is this one word which I want you to know, that sometime what happens is that same element like graphite and diamond, both of them are made up of carbon atom. Okay, both of them are made up of carbon atom. Similarly, oxygen, you have been knowing about it. Oxygen is a gas. We inhale oxygen during respiration process. And ozone, you know about this, that this is a gas which is there in upper atmosphere. And if it is there in lower atmosphere, it is going to be bad for us because it causes the smog. You might have learned in the geography and you will learn later on in chemistry also. But these are the two gases, oxygen gas and ozone gas. But you know what? They both are made up of same element, that is oxygen. Oxygen, oxygen. Same element, right? But both of them have different properties. Oxygen is good. Ozone in the lower atmosphere is not so good, not good for us. Opposite in their properties. Different properties, although they belong to same element. But because they have different formula, they are having different properties with each other. Similarly, diamond and graphite are the two forms of carbon. Carbon is one element. Both of them are made up of same element, but due to having a different structure, carbon, 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 it's all made up of carbon. No any other element is there. So it's an element structure, a structure of element. Element means when all the atoms are of same type. Please note it down with you. It's an important definition. Element is a pure substance that is made up of same type of atoms. All atoms are same. So when I say carbon, 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 carbon is here, so that's an element. All atoms are carbon. Over here, all atoms are carbon. So this is also element of carbon, but why do they have different names? This is called as diamond. This is called as graphite. Although both are having carbon in them. So you can refer oxygen here. Both of them, oxygen and ozone gas, both of them were having oxygen, but they were referring to a different element. Here again, they both are coming up made up of carbon, but they both have different structure and different properties because of the arrangement of carbon atoms. That arrangement is very, very important, and it comes almost every year it comes, they ask you about it. So let's compare the two structures in detail, and you have to learn them by heart. Once I will explain them, once I will describe them, please remember, I will not explain it again. The reason is, it is the topic where I believe students will have to rote learn this chapter, not the chapter, this topic which I'm explaining right now. And once you rote learn it and it's there on your fingertips, then many other things are understood. The thing that I'm explaining is not for understanding, but for rote learning. What is that rote learning? You have to learn that in diamond, in graphite, you have seen that this was a hexagon structure like this. And one carbon was actually bonded with 3 carbons, adjacent carbons. So if I just pick one carbon from here, from this, it has how many more carbon attached? Number 1, number 2, and number 3. If you pick another carbon from here, for example, this one will have 1 carbon, 2nd carbon, and it will continue its structure over here. So it will have 3rd carbon over here. So what I mean to say that the structure learning says you have to learn that in carbon, in graphite, the carbon is directly attached to 3 more carbons. Although what we know about carbon is very known to us. Now we are very familiar with this atom. It belongs to group 4 and it can form how many bonds? It can form 4 bonds. But how many it is forming? It is forming 3 bonds only. It means it has 1 electron which is left somewhere. Its 1 electron is left. All carbons which are here are left with their 1 electron which is not involved in the bonding. Similarly, if you look at diamond, not similarly, sorry, I used a wrong word. The carbon in the diamond is attached with 4 more carbons like this. This was the arrangement in diamond, you can see. So the structure was developed on this basis, and when it develops, you can see what it is forming. It is forming a giant lattice. It's forming a giant lattice which is going on in all direction. None of the bond is free. All bonds are being made. All 4 bonds are being made for 1 hydrogen, for 1 carbon. And that is actually running in 3 directions, 3 dimensions it's running. And hence it has no free bond and is making a very tough and hard structure which cannot move because of no free electrons. It cannot move in any direction. So first thing that you should know about the structure is each carbon in diamond is directly attached to 4 more carbons, and in graphite each carbon is directly attached to 3 more carbons. Now second point, it conducts electricity because of free moving electron. Now from where has it free moving electron? I just told you that the 4th electron, each carbon is leaving its 4th electron free, and that free electron is not involved in the bonding actually. So as it said, it can conduct electricity because of the free moving electron. The reason is very clear. Why do we say it has free moving electron? Because in its structure, each carbon is bonding with 3 more carbons, but it's not making a bond with another thing, any other element or any other substance. Hence, its 4th electron is free. Over here, it does not conduct electricity because all the 4 valence electrons are involved in the bonding. So whether the question comes about the diamond, why can't it conduct electricity, or graphite, why does it conduct electricity? The answer, you know, it has free moving, the whole phrase please, electron. It does not have free moving electrons. Now, if you look at the third point, it talks about its orientation. It says that it is a 2D structure, 2-dimensional, because when I'm making a hexagon, I am making it on the paper easily, going on my right-hand side and on my left-hand side. The third direction is free electron, which is outside the paper. Whereas if you look at diamond, these dotted lines are showing that 1 bond has been made at the back or maybe in the front of the paper, coming out of the screen or going inside the screen. Please connect with the same link if you get disconnected. So this structure is going in 3 dimensions because all electrons are occupied. But here it is in the 2 dimensions. You can create this structure on the paper. So it's like a sheet of hexagons on a paper. It's a sheet of hexagon you can consider. on a piece of paper. If you have a piece of paper, even you can draw this, and you can assume that as if the whole graphite is spread onto the sheet. I was telling you that you can draw this on the even sheet and assume that your paper, your piece of paper is a sheet of graphite. Now, if I bring a bunch of pages one on the other, that could represent the sheets of graphite. One sheet can slide over the other sheet, like if you have pages in a register or in a journal, how do you turn them up? When you move the page, one page on the above page or on the below page, what happens is they slide over each other. So basically, this can be considered as one sheet of paper and the other sheet of paper and then third sheet of paper. And these sheets can actually slide over each other easily because of the movement availability. The fourth electron is free, so it allows them to move. Because this fourth electron, now I have to tell you very important fact, because this is asked in exams. This fourth electron, which is dangling down, is not actually free. It's making a very weak bond. You see, this dotted line is showing a very weak bond with an atom in the next sheet, but a very weak bond. And it's the fourth electron of this electron is making a very weak bond in the carbon in the next sheet. So these bonds are very weak bonds between the two sheets or three sheets, that these sheets can easily slide over each other. And hence the structure says that each ring that we are making is consisting of 6 carbon atoms, and the basic structure is known as hexagon. This is about structure, but I want to actually tell you about the sliding of sheet. The structure is causing it to become a lubricant because the sheets can slide over each other. Sheets of hexagon, the hexagon sheets can slide over each other. That is why it works as a lubricant. The use of the graphite refers to its structure. You can justify the use by its structure. If the question is why is graphite a good lubricant, so you will say that the sheets of hexagon in graphite can slide over each other. This is the reason that it can work as a lubricant, and sometimes we also call it a soft giant molecular structure. At the same time, if you look at diamond, it is known as hard structure because of its 3 dimension. And its basic structure, this basic structure is given a name as tetrahedron. Tetrahedron. Or this is called as hexagon. This is hexagon. This is called as tetrahedron or tetrahedral structure. You can also spell it like tetrahedral structure. So this is tetrahedral structure, and its basic unit is called, graphite's basic unit is called hexagon. Because of its hard structure, where this is used, it is used in jewelry because it is shiny, as its 3 dimensions are forming a crystal structure, a crystalline structure. So it is used in jewelry because of shininess in its crystal form, and because of its hardness, it is used to cut glass. The uses of diamond and graphite are also asked in exam for 2 marks. Sometimes they ask you one use and the reason. So let me tell you both ways. If you are asked the uses, you will tell about the first use of the graphite is as lubricant, and second use that you will learn in another chapter of electrolysis. The second use is that it is used as electrode in electrolysis. Electrode, it's a good conductor of electricity, so it is used as electrode. So once you will learn there, you will be able to write this use, but I will add this in my presentation also for you. And if they ask you the two uses of diamond, diamond is used in jewelry because of shiny nature, shininess due to its crystal. And it is used to cut glass because it's the hardest substance on the earth. And it is harder because of its three-dimensional structure that does not have any free moving electron and is involved in all direction. It is involved in the bonding. Anything to ask from here, from any one of you?
No, miss.
Hania, Aska. Hania is not here. Aska, no? Everything is clear? Okay, let's move on. Once you have looked at the structure of the two, diamond and graphite, you will also be asked for their property comparison. If you talk about their physical properties, you can see that diamond was more harder, so obviously it has more melting point, and graphite will have less melting point. But both of them have relatively high melting point than small molecular structure. More number of bonds are there in diamond. There are 4 bonds. With each unit there are 4 bonds. There are 3 bonds. So more number of bonds will cause more power, will need more energy to overcome or to break the structure. If you want to break it to carbon and carbon, or if you want to melt it even, so you would need more energy because of more number of bonds. But if you talk about the chemical property, that means their combustion process. If you say that I am taking diamond, I am taking graphite, both of them will refer carbon, of course. So if you are taking equal amount of diamond and equal amount of carbon, or I should say equal amount of carbon in diamond and graphite. You have taken a piece of diamond, but it has same amount of carbon, and in a piece of graphite, but it has same amount of carbon. If you burn it with some amount of oxygen, so the carbon dioxide that will be produced will be same. The amount of carbon dioxide will also be same. It means their chemical properties are going to be same, but they are different in their physical properties. Now the last structure of your covalent bonding, and then we will end the covalent bonding, is silicon 4 oxide, or you can also call silicon dioxides. The silicon dioxides are same as diamond. The orientation of silicon 4 oxide is same as diamond. Why we call it silicon 4 oxide? Because if you see, each silicon is bonded with 4 oxygen atom. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. So it is silicon SiO2. Why it is SiO2? Because if I see, each oxygen has a bond with 2 silicon. 1 silicon, 2 silicon. So actually it is Si2O4, means 4 oxygen and 2 silicon. But when you bring it to the smallest ratio in this giant molecular structure, it becomes SiO2. SiO2 is the simplest form of silicon 4 oxide, and here in this we refer its formula as SiO2 and not Si2O4. However, the structure says that for each silicon there are 4 oxygen, and for each oxygen there are 2 silicons. Actually, this is the molecule, but we refer this formula for this giant structure, that is SiO2. And the name of this structure is silicon dioxide, that means 2 oxygen, or you call it silicon 4 oxide. Silicon 4 oxide means there is a charge of 4 on silicon. Now, if you talk about the structure, that is exactly the same as diamond. A tetrahedral structure is going on. However, if you compare it with diamond, let me show you a comparison also. I brought it for you. This is only made up of carbon atom. The diamond is only made up of carbon atom. But silicon 4 oxide is made up of two atoms, that is silicon and oxygen. So we say that it is a giant covalent molecule of a compound, because it's a compound of silicon and oxygen. And to diamond, we say it is giant covalent molecule of element, because it is made up of only one element, that is carbon. Are you getting this? Because it is very, very important to understand the difference between their composition also. Raham, are you clear on this?
Yes, miss.
And you, Abdullah and Aska?
Yes, miss.
Okay. So, next thing is both of them are hard, because obviously they have tetrahedral structure. Over here, I have told you that's a three-dimensional network, same as the diamond. So its structure is also known as tetrahedral, just like the diamond. So the structure is tetrahedral. Both of them are hard. Both of them have high melting and boiling points. The difference is only of the composition and not other properties. Now, sometime the reason for all three of them comes together, that why giant covalent structures have high melting and boiling points. So you need to understand that when you are referring to a small molecule like carbon dioxide, like ammonia, in these structures, there are small number of covalent bonds. Like in ammonia, you have three bonds, 1, 2, 3. In carbon dioxide, you have two double bonds. In methane, you have four covalent bond only. But in giant structure, this bond is unlimited number. It continues. See, you are not able to count these numbers. So many covalent bonds, many covalent bonds. In fact, in diamond, graphite, and silicon 4 oxide, there are many covalent bonds together. So obviously, it makes it a greater force, and we are unable to break this force easily. And that is why we need energy to overcome the force. To overcome means to just melt it, not to break it into its element, just getting over the force so that it can at least melt. Any questions from here so far?
No, miss.
Okay. Now we are doing these practice questions. Since I have just skipped some questions from covalent bonding also, so I would like you to do this as well. I wanted you first to know about the bonding, and that is why I skipped these MCQs. Let's start from here one by one. We will be doing them. Please start it. I think you should roughly draw these structures to get a better answer. Abdullah, this is for you. Draw these structures so you would know that which of them is containing a double bond. Okay. So I have got 2 answers so far. Aska, your answer is correct. Abdullah, you need to rethink. And Raham is still working.
Hello?
All right, Abdullah, now your answer is correct. Yes, Hania?
Yeah, sorry, my charging went off. Like I had to wait a few minutes for it to
Rahman, we
charge
are
back
just,
up.
practicing some past paper questions. You can join us over here.
Okay.
No, Raham. Okay, Hania, since I've given this question for long, I'm just explaining it because I've got the wrong answers. So I have to explain to everyone almost, except for Aska. Since nitrogen we have seen, if you remember, I told you nitrogen belongs to group 5, so it will be needing 3 bonds to be made. It means all 3 bonds are possible with nitrogen itself, leaving 2 lone pairs. If you remember, we have learned this point that an element from group 5 will be making 3 bonds and will have 1 lone pair. So it's making the 3 bond and 1 lone pair. Just remember that chart I have given you and you will not be in trouble anymore. Carbon dioxide structure, you people have even practiced like this. When carbon is sharing its 4 electron by a double bond with oxygen on both sides, and oxygen is sharing its 2 electron with the carbon as a double bond. So yes, it is containing a double bond. Ethene, that is C2H4. That means there are 2 carbons and 2 hydrogens. Hydrogen can only, 4 hydrogens. So there are 4 hydrogen like this. Each hydrogen can provide 1 bond, 1 bond, 1 bond, 1 bond. Carbon is still left with 2 more bonds. So where would they go? They will be over here in between themselves. So a double bond is existing here. Methanol is CH3OH, C 3 times H, 1, 2, 3 times H. And then it has another O, and then O is having H. Now oxygen can form 2 bonds. That is why 1 bond here and 1 bond here. So these are single bonds. Hydrogen could make 1 bond only. So you can see there is no double bond in this structure. So B should have been the answer. It tells me that you need more practice with past papers as well as with the structures. The structures are weak. So the homework I'll be giving you for vacation will have some structures. MCQ number 2 and then 3. Okay. Have I made any?
Can you explain the fourth one again? The methanol one?
It is saying that it has given the sequence also for your ease. It is saying that first you have 3 hydrogen with 1 carbon, right? So what you know that carbon makes 4 bonds. 1, 2, 3 bonds, so it will make with 3 hydrogens, right? So it has made 3 bonds. Now one bond is left. One bond that is left has to be made with oxygen. All right, so I made it with oxygen. Now carbon is not left with any bond, but oxygen needs to make 2 bonds because it is in group 6. Group 6 makes 2 bonds. So when it will make 2 bonds, it will make one with carbon and one with the hydrogen besides it. Now you get it?
Yeah, now I get it.
Good. Now MCQ number 2, technically, but I think I have skipped one MCQ somewhere. Slide might be deleted. So let's do this one. A new element, oxfordium, OX. It is the name of the, it is the symbol of the element ox. Was discovered with the following properties. What are the properties? It is insoluble. It does not conduct electricity. It has the formula of OX2. And the bonding is this triple bond between OX and OX. There is a triple bond. Very easy, I believe. In which group of the periodic table should the new element be placed? Okay, so it is well done, Abdullah. Very fast. Aska, you need to think which compounds, which group elements need to make 3 bonds. And if it is in group 3, it has to be ionic compound. Does ionic compound not conduct electricity? Is it insoluble in water? Think from all perspective, my dear. Okay, Hania, you have to give the alphabet of the answer. Anyways, I take it as right answer from you. And Aska, now you are right. What about you, Raham? I can spare you because you have not attended the classes. So I can spare you if you want. Very good. Well done. So group 5 is the group where elements make triple bonds or 3 bonds, not triple bonds specifically, but they make 3 bonds always. So 3 bonds are possible in group 5. And since it's a covalent compound, you can't consider it as group 3 because covalent compounds are insoluble. They do not conduct electricity and they have these small molecular formulas. This could be an ionic compound, but OX is one molecule which is forming 2. That means it's a molecule, just like N2, just like O2, just like H2. So OX2 is one molecule. Molecules are there where in the ionic, in the covalent compound. So you can't take as group 3 right answer. All right, MCQ number 4, which statement describes the attractive forces between molecules? Oh, this point, I am so sorry for this. I did not explain to you this point, and I should have told you there while I was explaining the molecule, small molecular structures. Let me just give you a very brief idea about the forces. Can any one of you remind me what were the name of the force in ionic compound? Name of
Electrostatic.
Yes, please repeat again.
Electrostatic.
Electrostatic.
Very good. So the forces name in ionic compound. When we talk about ionic compound, the forces name in ionic compound was electrostatic force of attraction. Okay, tell me, Hania, what was the electrostatic force of attraction between? What were the particles in between which it was existing?
The particles of electrostatic.
Ionic compounds have some particles between which this electrostatic force exists. Electrostatic force of attraction exists between what particles? What is the name of that specific species which has electrostatic force of attraction?
Oppositely charged ions.
Very good, Aska. These are oppositely charged ions. So over there also I gave you this specific names. This is the name of the force. This is the name of the particle. Now, when it comes to covalent compounds and specifically small molecules, covalent compounds have the forces named intermolecular forces. Okay, note it down. Ania, very important. Intermolecular forces that exist between what? It says the name itself is telling you intermolecular. That means the particle name over here is molecules. The name of the particle in compound, covalent compound is molecules. So the forces over here are existing between molecules, and the name of the force in covalent compound is intermolecular forces. The word molecule will never be used for ionic compound. Ionic compounds have ions, oppositely charged ions they do not have molecules. Molecules are only there in covalent compounds. So this last MCQ quickly and then I will leave the class. Aska, I think you need to rethink. It describes the attractive forces they are saying. The forces name you have to explain. Hania, wrong answer. Yes, Aska, now your answer is correct. Hania is still
Is that correct? Oh my God.
okay. I think I was not very clear in my explanation. Abdullah, are you willing to give the explanation? But you have not given me the answer. Oh, yes, the answer is correct. Abdullah, would you like to give the explanation for your answer?
Miss, as we know, covalent structures are weak. They have weak forces between them, and they are covalently bonded. Otherwise, if we see the strong covalent bonds, and that's not the right answer. And ionic bonds don't have molecules. That's why it is. And weak forces and ions together in a lattice are in strong forces, not in weak. So that C is left.
So, as Abdullah rightly said, if it is ions, it cannot be weak force. Wrong. So, strong ionic bonds cannot have molecules. I just said ionic bonds cannot have molecules. And then when you are saying forces which are holding molecules together, they are not strong. We just discussed that they are intermolecular forces because they have weak boiling point and weak melting point. So the forces are very weak. The forces are weak. Only ionic compound have strong forces, but then they do not have molecules. So the option C is correct. They are weak forces formed between covalently bonded what? Molecules. The molecule, like if I'm saying H2O and H2O. These are two molecules, right? So the force that we are talking about is existing between them. And not like ionic compounds which were having the forces between the ions within the substance. Here the forces is amongst the molecule H2O and H2O and H2O and H2O. These are attracting each other. So they are very weak forces. If I say carbon dioxide, carbon dioxide, carbon dioxide, carbon dioxide, these are many molecules and they are attracting each other very weak force. So this weak force is called as intermolecular force because it exists between two molecules. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Aska and Graham?
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
All right. We'll continue from here tomorrow with a new type of bonding. That is metallic bonding, which is not a part of actually chemical bonding. You can't call it because there is no transfer or sharing of electron. It's a different kind of bonding. It's metallic bonding that we are going to start tomorrow. So please do not miss the class because it is a continuation. If you miss something, you lose the concept. All right. Allah Hafiz.